Greetings, fellow seekers of slumber. Tonight we explore some of the most dangerous creatures you might encounter in your travels. From the bone-chilling roar of a dragon to the seductive whispers of a siren, these creatures have hunted humanity's dreams for millennia. But with my tips, you might just survive your next encounter. Now let's gently wander into tonight's story. You find yourself, as you often do in these tales, on a path less traveled, the kind that always seems to lead somewhere both enchanting and terrifying. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms, and the silence is so profound it almost hums. This is the kind of silence that makes you feel both utterly alone and strangely watched. The trees here are ancient, their branches gnarled like the fingers of old storytellers, weaving a canopy so thick that only slivers of moonlight manage to pierce through, dappling the forest floor in shifting patterns of silver and shadow. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig beneath your boot, sounds unnaturally loud in this hushed world, making the hairs on your arms stand up. It's a primal feeling, a deep-seated instinct that tells you something isn't quite right, that you're not meant to be here, or at least, not alone. As you press deeper into this ancient wood, the air grows heavier, almost thick with an unspoken presence. The shadows themselves seem to deepen, taking on a life of their own, coiling and stretching like hungry tendrils. You clutch your cloak a little tighter, not just against the chill, but against the creeping sense of unease. You begin to notice things: oddly disturbed patches of moss, small, broken branches that seem too fresh for mere wind, and the faint, earthy scent of something unpleasant. It's not the smell of normal forest decay. It's something sharper, more animalistic, and undeniably malevolent. A shiver runs down your spine that has nothing to do with the temperature. You hear it then, a low, guttural chittering, just at the edge of your hearing, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It's a sound that suggests not just intelligence, but a cruel, calculating intelligence. Suddenly, a flicker of movement catches your eye. Not a deer, not a rabbit. Too low to the ground, too quick, too lumpy. It's a shape, vaguely humanoid, but hunched and twisted, darting between the ancient tree trunks. Then another and another. They're small, no taller than a child, but their movements are unsettlingly agile, their forms seemingly born from the very shadows they inhabit. Their eyes, if you can glimpse them in the gloom, would likely be glinting with malice, their teeth too sharp, their grins too wide. They are the denizens of the deep woods, the forgotten corners, the places where fear takes root and blossoms into something tangible. You realize, with a sudden, chilling certainty, that you've stumbled into the territory of goblins, and they are not pleased by your intrusion. They begin to circle, their chittering growing louder, more confident, like a chorus of angry insects. You can hear the scuff of their tiny, leathery feet on the forest floor, the faint clink of crude bone or stone weapons. They aren't trying to hide anymore. This is their domain, and you are prey. One of them, bolder than the rest, darts out from behind a thick oak, its form briefly silhouetted against a patch of weak moonlight. You see its crude, sharp club, its hunched back, and its unsettlingly long, grasping fingers. It snarls, a sound like gravel grinding together, and for a fleeting moment, you think about how charming a garden gnome is in comparison. You wonder if they offer a loyalty program for adventurers who get lost in their woods, something like, collect 10 broken swords, get a free dismemberment. Probably not. Your heart thumps against your ribs, a drumbeat of primal fear. These aren't the cackling, easily frightened goblins from children's tales. These are territorial, aggressive, and clearly outnumber you. You scan your surroundings desperately, looking for an escape, a defensible position, anything that isn't just more ancient trees and encroaching darkness. The air around you feels cold, almost icy, and you realize it's not just the forest chill. It's the sheer malevolence radiating from these creatures. Their presence itself seems to suck the warmth from the air, leaving you shivering. And as the chittering grows into a full-blown cacophony, you know one thing for certain tonight. You are not alone in the gloom. And these little monsters are just getting warmed up. The chilling chittering of the goblins fades behind you as you burst through the tree line, scrambling instinctively away from the deepening darkness of their domain. Your lungs burn with the effort, and your legs ache, but a primal urge for survival propels you forward. You find yourself on a wide, sweeping plain, bathed in the pale, ethereal glow of a moon that seems unnaturally large and close to night. The wind here is a different kind of cold, vast and unyielding, carrying with it the scent of dust and something vaguely mineral like distant rock. The plain stretches out before you, an immense, flat expanse that seems to go on forever, broken only by scattered, ancient stone formations that stand like silent sentinels against the horizon. There's a strange beauty to this desolation, a stark, breathtaking emptiness that would be peaceful, if not for the underlying current of dread that now clings to you like a second skin. As your eyes adjust to the pale moonlight, you begin to notice anomalies in the landscape. Patches of earth are unnaturally scorched, the ground turned to brittle, blackened glass as if struck by an immense, searing heat. The air, already cold, now carries a faint, acrid smell like burnt sulfur and something metallic. You hear it then, not a chittering, but a low, resonant rumble. A sound that vibrates through the very ground beneath your feet, a sound of immense power stirring from a deep, ancient sleep. It's like the distant thunder of a coming storm, but far more ominous, far more alive. The hairs on your arms prickle once more, but this time it's not from fear of small, scuttling things. This is a primordial dread, a recognition of something vast and terrible. You spot them then, not far off, towering silhouettes against the moonlit sky. Great, jagged mountains that weren't there before, or perhaps were simply too shrouded in the dark to be seen. But these aren't natural peaks. Their summits are too sharp, too deliberate, their slopes too perfectly angled to be mere geological formations. And then you see it cresting one of the highest, most formidable of these newly appeared mountains. A shadow, so immense it momentarily blots out the moon, unfurling vast, leathery wings. It's a silhouette of terrifying grace, ancient and powerful, moving with a silent, deliberate motion that belays its colossal size. There's no mistaking it now. The scorched earth, the acrid scent, the deep, rumbling sound that chills you to the bone, it all points to one creature, a being of legend and fire. It's a dragon. Not some storybook beast, but a true, majestic, and terrifying force of nature. Its scales, even from this distance, seem to shimmer with the moonlight, hinting at iridescent power. It lets out a roar then, not a loud, ground-shaking bellow, but a deep, resonant growl that seems to echo from the very heart of the plain, a sound filled with ancient power and undeniable menace. It's a sound that strips away any illusion of safety, reminding you that, in this world, some legends are terribly, frighteningly real. For a moment, you almost feel a sense of awe, a gasp of wonder at the sheer, terrifying majesty of it all. Well, that escalated quickly. You mutter, a nervous laugh escaping your lips. From tiny forest goblins to that. Maybe I should have just stayed home and argued with the turnips. The dragon's head turns slowly, its immense form shifting like a living mountain, and for a heart-stopping moment you feel its gaze upon you, even from this immense distance. It's not just a physical stare. It's a palpable weight, a predatory awareness that makes your breath catch in your throat. You feel utterly exposed on the open plain, a tiny, insignificant speck in the shadow of this colossal beast. Every instinct screams at you to run, to hide, to simply cease to exist. But where do you go on an open plain? The only cover is miles away, and the dragon could cover that distance in a few effortless beats of its wings. You realize then that survival isn't about fighting here. It's about not being seen, about not drawing its attention. It's about becoming invisible, or at least inconsequential. The very air seems to crackle with latent power around it, a testament to the raw, untamed magic it embodies. The realization sinks in that you're not just observing a mythical creature. You're within its perceived territory, and any misstep could lead to a very fiery, very definitive end to your story. with the dragon's immense shadow still stretching across the plain. You instinctively seek refuge, stumbling towards a cluster of ancient, weather-beaten rocks that offer the barest illusion of cover. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the vast, silent landscape. The dragon, thankfully, seems content to merely survey its domain, its presence a constant, vibrating hum in the air, a reminder of your utter vulnerability. You watch it for what feels like an eternity, forcing yourself to breathe slowly, shallowly, trying to disappear against the rough stone. The sun, a relentless disk of fire in the sky, begins its slow descent, painting the distant horizon in fiery hues of orange and purple. The air, already dry, takes on a new quality, shimmering with an unseen heat that isn't from the setting sun, but from the very ground beneath your feet. As the last sliver of sunlight dips below the horizon, and the stars begin to prick the darkening sky, a strange phenomenon occurs. The air begins to swirl, not with a natural breeze, but with a deliberate, almost sentient motion. Fine grains of sand, stirred by unseen forces, dance and spiral into miniature columns that move with a lazy grace across the plain. This isn't a simple desert wind. There's a directed energy to it, a subtle shift in the very fabric of the air itself. The scent of ozone, sharp and clean, now mingles with the dust, hinting at something elemental and powerful at play. You remember tales of the desert, of beings woven from sand and fire, creatures of immense power that lurk beneath the shifting dunes. You recall stories of how they are born of the wind, mischievous and ancient, sometimes benevolent, often cruel, always unpredictable. Then, from the largest of these swirling sand columns, a form begins to coalesce. It starts as a vague, shifting shape, like smoke given solid form, but quickly resolves into something resembling a towering humanoid figure. Its skin, if you can call it that, shimmers with the colors of the desert at twilight, shifting sands, deep blues and fiery oranges, shot through with veins of what looks like pure starlight. Its eyes, deep set and ancient, glow with an inner fire, holding a wisdom that predates mountains. This isn't just a sandstorm, this is a desert djinn. Its form is fluid, constantly shifting, yet it carries an undeniable presence. A sense of immense power contained within a seemingly fragile shell of elemental energy. You recall the old stories Djin can grant wishes, but they are notorious tricksters, often twisting desires into bitter ironies. "Oh, great," you mutter, "just what I needed. A magical being that plays word games when my only wish is for a comfortable bed and fewer existential threats." It's almost funny, really, the universe's idea of a practical joke. The djinn moves with a silent, gliding grace, its footsteps leaving no impression on the sand. It stops some distance from you, its luminous gaze seeming to pierce through the rocks you hide behind, directly into your very thoughts. A low, resonant voice, like the shifting of dunes in a storm, echoes in your mind, not through your ears. It speaks, but its words are less about communication and more about a challenge, a test. It doesn't ask what you want, but rather what you seek. The implication hangs heavy in the air that your desires, your deepest longings, are now laid bare before it. It's a terrifying prospect for a being of such power to know the secret landscape of your soul. You feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to confess everything, to bargain, to plead. But a flicker of instinct, a tiny ember of self-preservation, reminds you of the djinn's tricky nature. You remember the old warnings: never be specific with a djinn, never reveal too much, and never, ever ask for more than you absolutely need. Its power is vast, but its interpretation of your words can be a cruel mirror. The air around it shimmers intensely now, as if the very fabric of reality is bending to its will. The sand under your fingernails feels suddenly insignificant. The djinn seems to grow taller, its form more defined, as if feeding on your unspoken thoughts. The temperature rises slightly, and the air smells faintly of burnt sugar. It's a tempting heat, a promise of warmth in the cold expanse of the desert, but you know it could just as easily turn to a searing inferno. This encounter isn't about physical confrontation. It's a battle of wits, a dangerous dance of desire and consequence. Your next move, your next thought could seal your fate. You realize that sometimes the most dangerous mythical creatures are not the ones you can fight with a sword, but the ones that can twist your own heart against you. Leaving the desert Djin and its unsettling mental probing behind, you push onward, a lingering phantom of its ancient voice echoing in your thoughts. The air grows steadily warmer as you traverse the shifting sands, a false promise of comfort after the Djin's ethereal chill. The flat expanse of the plain gradually gives way to a more rugged terrain, marked by rocky outcrops and sparse, hardy vegetation. The faint scent of salt begins to drift on the wind, growing stronger with every step, and soon the distant, rhythmic crash of waves reaches your ears. You're approaching the coast, a place of treacherous beauty where land meets the vast, unforgiving sea. The thought of water, even the cold, salty kind, offers a strange comfort after the parched desert. As you draw closer to the coastline, the landscape transforms. The rocks become sheer cliffs, plunging dramatically into the churning indigo waters below. The wind here is fierce, whipping spray from the waves high into the air, carrying the sharp tang of the ocean. The cliffs are jagged and perilous, offering no easy path down to the shore. You search for a way to descend, or perhaps a safer route around, and that's when you see it, a worn, narrow road, barely more than a goat path, winding precariously along the cliff face. It looks unstable, prone to rock slides, and utterly unforgiving. This is the kind of road that makes you question all your life choices, like why you didn't just stay home and knit instead of seeking adventure. Well, at least it's not a dragon. You think, then immediately regret tempting fate. Suddenly, a massive, hulking form emerges from a shadowy alcove beneath a particularly steep part of the cliff face, directly blocking the precarious path forward. It's truly immense, easily twice the height of a tall man, with skin like rough, moss-covered rock, and a broad, flat face dominated by a pair of deep, set intelligent, yet undeniably cruel eyes. It carries a crude, heavy club made from a tree trunk, its edges jagged and splintered. This is an ogre, a solitary brute known for its strength, its territorial nature, and its surprisingly low tolerance for polite conversation. It grunts, a sound like boulders grinding together, and plants its massive foot firmly in the middle of the narrow path. Clearly, you are not passing without a discussion, or more likely, a fight. The ogre's gaze is fixed on you, unblinking, assessing your meager defenses. Its breath, if it can be called that, carries the faint, unpleasant odor of stale meat and damp cave. You feel a prickle of unease, realizing that while it's not as cunning as a Djin, or as devastating as a dragon, its sheer physical power is overwhelming. It's a creature of brute force, and strategy won't mean much against its raw might. You vaguely remember a story about an ogre who was so stupid he tried to eat his own club, and you briefly wonder if this one is a distant relative. Perhaps it's just looking for directions. You muse to yourself, a nervous chuckle escaping your lips. Or maybe it wants to offer me a discount on bridge tolls. You know, a buy one, get one free on smashed limbs. The humor, as always, is a flimsy shield against the very real danger. The ogre takes a slow, deliberate step forward, its massive frame filling the narrow path, leaving you with nowhere to go but backward, straight into the churning, hungry waves below, or forward, straight into its massive club. It doesn't speak, but its intent is clear tribute or confrontation. Its presence feels like a physical weight in the air, pressing down on you. You realize that its patience is limited, and its intellect, while low, is sufficient to recognize a threat, or simply a tasty snack. The wind whips your hair around your face, and the cries of distant gulls seem to mock your predicament. This isn't a battle you can win with spells or cunning. This is a challenge of raw survival against overwhelming, simple force. You prepare for the inevitable, hoping that somewhere, somehow, there's a trick the old stories forgot to mention. The cliff edge looms, a grim reminder of the stakes. You manage to narrowly escape the ogre, perhaps by rolling down a loose scree of rocks, or perhaps it simply got distracted by a particularly shiny pebble. Either way, the lumbering brute's grunts, and the crushing sound of its club hitting empty air fade behind you as you stumble away from the treacherous cliff path. The air here grows dense with the spray from the ocean, thick with the scent of salt and seaweed. Ahead, a great river, wide and dark, empties into the churning sea, its currents powerful and swift. This is clearly a major natural barrier, one that will require a crossing. And there, stretching across the formidable expanse of the water, is a bridge. It's an ancient, impressive structure of massive, rough, hewn stones, clearly built by hands long forgotten, perhaps even by giants. Its arches rise majestically against the sky, dark and foreboding, yet offering the only clear path forward. As you approach, the bridge seems to grow larger, its scale daunting. The stones are slick with moss and dampness, and the wind whistles through its ancient gaps, sounding almost like a mournful song. The river below churns with a dark, restless energy, and you can see no boats or ferries in sight. The bridge is the only option. But as you step onto the first immense stone slab, a shadow detaches itself from the darker recesses of the bridge's central arch. It's a creature of truly monstrous proportions, easily as tall as a small house, with skin like coarse, grey stone, and eyes that glow with a malevolent, ancient cunning. This is no mere beast, this is a troll, a creature legendary for its regenerative abilities, its fierce territoriality, and its fondness for demanding tolls, often of the flesh and bone variety. The troll lumbers forward, its heavy footsteps shaking the very foundations of the bridge. It carries no weapon, for its own massive fists are more than enough. Its teeth are jagged and yellowed, like ancient broken stones, and a guttural rumble, deeper than any ogre's, emanates from its throat. "Who dares cross my bridge?" It booms, its voice a gravelly roar that echoes beneath the stone arches, making the gulls scatter from the nearby cliffs. "A toll you must pay, or this bridge you shall not traverse." It stands squarely in your path, its immense form filling the entire width of the ancient structure. You notice its skin, even from this distance, seems to be a patchwork of rough, almost scabby hide and fresh, pinkish patches, evidence of its infamous regeneration. You recall the old tales of trolls being vulnerable to sunlight, or to fire, or to riddles. Unfortunately, the sun is setting, you have no fire, and your mind is currently blank of clever poetry. A nervous chuckle escapes your lips. "Atoll, you say? Well, I hope you take IOUs, because I'm fresh out of gold and, regrettably, juicy human sacrifices." You immediately regret the last part, but it's too late. The troll's eyes narrow, and its guttural rumble deepens into an ominous growl.
"Flesh and bone will suffice!"
It snarls, taking another heavy step forward. You quickly think of alternative offers. Perhaps a truly captivating story. I know a few about greedy monsters and brave, albeit foolish, travelers. You brace yourself, remembering the stories where hapless adventurers tried to reason with these brutes. It's usually a one-sided conversation, ending with a crunch. You consider attempting to run past it, but the bridge is too narrow, and the troll's reach too long. The river below churns ominously, a dark and swift current that promises a quick, cold end. The troll raises one enormous fist, its knuckles like small boulders. The air crackles with tension, and the ancient bridge seems to groan under the weight of the impending confrontation. You realize, with chilling clarity, that this isn't a creature you can outsmart with words alone, nor overpower with strength. Your only hope lies in remembering some obscure weakness from an old legend, or perhaps in finding some way to exploit its simple-minded nature. But time is running out. The wind howls, carrying the spray of the ocean, and the troll's shadow stretches long across the bridge, a grim, unavoidable obstacle. This is the definition of being between a rock and a hard place, if the rock was sentient and really wanted to smash you. With the troll's booming demands echoing behind you, and the scent of its damp, mossy hide still clinging to the air, you scramble away from the bridge, opting for a detour rather than becoming a permanent part of its diet. You find yourself once more on a path that seems determined to challenge every ounce of your resolve. The landscape shifts dramatically again. the coastal cliffs giving way to rugged, soaring mountains. Their peaks are jagged and snow-capped, even in what seems like the warmer season, and their lower slopes are cloaked in dense, ancient forests. The air here is thin and crisp, carrying the scent of pine and cold stone, and the silence, once a luxury, now feels oppressive, broken only by the distant shriek of some unseen mountain predator. As you ascend a steep, winding trail that seems barely wide enough for a goat, the forest grows thicker, the trees taller and older. Their branches are heavy with needles, and the light filtering through is a dim, emerald green. The ground underfoot is a treacherous carpet of roots and loose stones, making every step a conscious effort. You can feel the altitude, the subtle ache in your lungs, and the growing chill that seeps into your bones despite your steady exertion. The air here is clean, almost sterile, yet it holds an underlying current of immense power, a sense of ancient strength that radiates from the very stone of the mountains. This isn't just a climb, it's an intrusion into a domain far older and more formidable than any human kingdom. Suddenly, a piercing shriek echoes from high above, a sound that is both majestic and terrifying, a cry that seems to tear through the very fabric of the air. It's a sound that speaks of untamed wilderness, of a hunter supreme, a creature of the skies. You instinctively duck, pressing yourself against a cold, rough rock face, scanning the impossibly vast sky above the tree line. Then you see it, a monstrous shape silhouetted against a fleeting cloud, soaring on immense, leathery wings. It's smaller than a dragon, more agile, with a long, serpentine neck and tail, and a venomous-looking barb at the tip of its tail. This is a wyvern, a lesser cousin of the dragon, perhaps, but no less deadly. Known for its predatory nature and its habit of swooping down on unsuspecting prey with terrifying speed. Its presence alone makes the mountain feel even more oppressive, its vastness now harboring a winged terror. The wyvern circles once, its sharp eyes seemingly piercing the dense canopy to find you, even as you press yourself further into the shadows of the trees. You hold your breath, trying to make yourself as small and invisible as possible. You remember tales of wyverns, how they often hunt in these high, desolate places, their shrieks a death knell for mountain goats, and sometimes for unfortunate travelers who stray into their hunting grounds. The thought of being snatched from the ground and carried into the sky by such a creature is far more terrifying than any slow, grinding demise at the hands of a troll. Well, at least I won't have to worry about paying a toll now. You think, a grim joke to lighten the unbearable tension. Unless it charges by the pound for involuntary air travel. You resist the urge to glance up again, knowing that even a flicker of movement could draw its attention. The wyvern lets out another shriek, closer this time, and you hear the powerful beat of its wings as it descends, a whistling sound that means it's coming in for a closer look. The air stirs violently as it passes, sending a shower of pine needles and small stones tumbling down from the higher branches. You can almost feel the rush of air from its passage, the sheer force of its descent. This is not a creature to be reasoned with, nor is it one to be outsmarted by riddles. Its instincts are primal: hunt, kill, eat. Your only hope is that it doesn't spot you, that the dense forest provides enough cover, or that something else more appealing catches its razor-sharp eye. The mountain, once a symbol of stoic endurance, now feels like a cage, with a winged warden observing your every move. You pray it finds more interesting prey soon, far, far away from your current location. Miraculously, you manage to tear yourself free from the giant spider's sticky web, leaving behind a few shreds of your cloak and a strong sense of primal disgust. The dry scuttling sounds and the cloying scent of decay fade as you scramble away, pushing through the tangled undergrowth with renewed desperation. The forest slowly begins to change, the trees growing straighter, the air clearing, though still carrying a faint, unsettling echo of the giant arachnid's presence. As you emerge from the unnaturally dark woods, you find yourself at the foot of towering, jagged peaks. The sky above is a brilliant, piercing blue, almost too bright after the gloom of the forest, and the wind whips through the high passes with a constant, mournful whistle. You begin to ascend, drawn by an instinct to gain a vantage point, or perhaps simply to escape the low, lying shadows where so many dangers seem to lurk. The climb is arduous, the terrain steep and unforgiving, composed of loose scree and immense, ancient boulders. As you ascend higher, the air thins and a profound silence settles around you, broken only by the sharp cry of distant raptors. Then you see it, a majestic, soaring shape silhouetted against the bright sky, circling far above the highest peaks. Its wings are immense, feathered and powerful, beating with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Its body is lean and muscular, ending in a regal head with a sharp, curved beak and piercing eyes. This is a griffin, a creature of legend, half lion and half eagle, known for its proud, solitary nature and its fierce territoriality. The griffin descends, not towards you, but towards a distant, rocky outcrop, a massive nest clearly visible even from this distance. It lands with a powerful beat of its wings, its talons sinking into the stone. You hold your breath, instinctively pressing yourself against the cold rock face of the mountain. You remember tales of griffins, how they are noble beasts, but fiercely protective of their hunting grounds and their young. They are not malevolent like goblins or hungry like ogres, but they are territorial, and they do not tolerate trespassers. Their strength is legendary, capable of carrying off prey far larger than a human. The thought makes your stomach clench. Well, at least it's not trying to eat me directly. You whisper to yourself, a nervous chuckle escaping. Just judging my climbing technique, I suppose. Probably thinking I should have brought proper gear, like a grappling hook or perhaps a really, really large catnip toy. The joke falls flat in the thin mountain air. The griffin lets out a piercing shriek, a sound of wild triumph that echoes across the vast mountain range. And you realize it's a warning, a declaration of its dominion. It's a sound that seems to demand respect and perhaps a swift departure from its territory. You feel a subtle shift in the air, a ripple of raw power emanating from the creature. A sense of ancient authority that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. You quickly scan your surroundings, looking for any sign of a smaller, more discreet path, anything that leads away from the direct line of sight to its nest. This is not a battle to be fought. It is a territory to be avoided. You begin to retrace your steps, or rather, to seek a different route, a less direct, more circuitous path around its perceived hunting grounds. Every loose stone, every shifting patch of scree, becomes a potential alarm bell. The griffin remains perched on its rocky eyrie, a silent, watchful guardian, its sharp gaze seemingly sweeping across the entire mountain range. You feel its presence, even from a distance, a constant, low thrumming of ancient power in the very air. You realize that you're not just trying to avoid a monster. You're trying to navigate a living, breathing landscape ruled by a proud, untamed force. Your survival now depends on discretion, on stealth, on becoming nothing more than a passing shadow in its vast domain. The sun begins its slow descent, and the golden light catches the griffin's feathers, making it appear almost angelic, yet no less dangerous. The mountain, once a symbol of challenge, now feels like a prison, with a winged warden observing your every move. You pray it finds more interesting prey soon, far, far away from your current location. Having somehow, perhaps by sheer luck or the Minotaur's momentary distraction, escaped the crushing walls of the labyrinth, you emerge onto a vast, windswept steppe. The air here is wide open, carrying the scent of dry grasses and distant wild horses. The sky is immense, a boundless dome of blue, and the sun shines with a fierce, almost blinding intensity. The landscape is a gentle roll of golden hills, stretching as far as the eye can see, punctuated by occasional solitary trees or clusters of ancient, weathered rocks. The feeling of being confined, of being trapped, slowly begins to recede, replaced by a sense of vastness, of endless possibilities. Yet, even in this open expanse, a new kind of tension stirs in the air. A different kind of wildness that suggests you are no longer at the top of the food chain. As you trek across the rolling plains, The wind whispers through the tall grasses, creating a hypnotic, undulating rhythm. The land feels alive, vibrant, yet also untamed. You notice hoofprints in the softer earth, larger and more numerous than any deer or wild boar, suggesting the passage of a significant number of animals. Then, in the distance, a cloud of dust appears on the horizon, growing steadily larger, accompanied by a low, rhythmic thrumming sound that vibrates through the ground. It's not the heavy tread of an ogre, nor the deliberate steps of a troll. This is a sound of swift, powerful movement, of many hooves pounding the earth in unison. The dust cloud resolves into a breathtaking sight, a vast herd of centaurs, dozens, perhaps hundreds of them, thundering across the plains. Their human torsos are lean and muscular, their equine bodies powerful and graceful, their manes and tails flowing like banners in the wind. They carry no weapons, no armor, they are wild, untamed, moving with a primal, instinctual force. You see both males and females, some with foals trotting beside them, a testament to their nomadic, communal existence. They are a magnificent sight, a living embodiment of freedom and raw strength, but also a terrifying one, for they are moving directly across your path. This isn't an attack, it's a migration, a force of nature, and you are simply in the way. You remember tales of centaurs proud, swift, deeply connected to the land, and fiercely defensive of their way of life. They are not typically malicious, but they are wild, and they do not suffer fools or trespassers gladly. Well, this is new, you mumble, stampede, but with more intellectual conversations and less likelihood of being mistaken for a tree. Though I bet they judge your posture pretty harshly. The ground trembles as the herd approaches, the thundering hooves a visceral, overwhelming sound. You can feel the wind created by their passage, the raw energy of so many powerful bodies moving in unison. They are moving with a singular purpose, a collective will, and you are a tiny, fragile obstacle in their path. You quickly assess your options. There's no cover on the open plain, no sturdy trees to climb, nowhere to truly hide. Your only hope is to remain utterly still, to flatten yourself against the earth, or to attempt to move out of their direct line of travel without drawing undue attention. The herd stretches across the horizon, a living river of muscle and fur, and you feel utterly insignificant before their ancient, untamed power. You press yourself into a shallow dip in the earth, hoping the slight rise of the land will offer some concealment. The scent of their wild, equine bodies fills the air as they draw closer, a mixture of sweat, leather, and something intensely animalistic. You can hear their low whickers, the snorts of the foals, and the occasional sharp cry as they communicate amongst themselves. Their eyes, dark and intelligent, seem to glance over you without truly seeing, their focus fixed on their collective journey. This is a moment not of direct threat, but of profound vulnerability, of being at the mercy of a greater natural force. Your survival depends not on your strength or cunning, but on their indifference, on the hope that you are merely a pebble in the path of a river, easily bypassed and forgotten. The thunder of their hooves fills your very bones, and you wait, breath held, for the wild tide to pass. You tear yourself away from the seductive, deadly beauty of the siren's song, perhaps by sheer force of will or the sudden, jarring splash of a wave breaking unexpectedly close. The spell shatters, leaving you gasping for breath, your mind reeling from the intoxicating pull. You stumble away from the treacherous shoreline, putting as much distance as possible between yourself and the alluring voices that still seem to echo faintly in the salt-laden air. The coast road continues, leading you away from the churning sea and deeper into a region of ancient, weathered ruins. Here, the landscape is dominated by crumbling stone structures, overgrown with ivy and moss, their purpose long forgotten by human memory. Tall, slender figures of stone stand scattered throughout the overgrown courtyards, resembling ancient guardians or forgotten idols, their faces worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. As you navigate the treacherous ground, littered with fallen masonry and thick with thorny bushes, a profound stillness settles upon the ruins. It's a silence that feels unnatural, devoid of even the rustle of leaves or the chirping of insects. The air is heavy, almost stagnant, and carries a faint, earthy scent like old dust and petrified wood. You notice something peculiar about the numerous stone figures that dot the landscape. They aren't just worn, many of them are unnaturally smooth, their surfaces almost polished, and their expressions, though eroded, seem frozen in grotesque masks of terror or surprise. One figure, half buried in the earth, is clearly that of a wolf, its snarling face twisted into an expression of eternal agony. Another, a human-sized statue, appears to be mid-stride, its face contorted in a silent scream. A chilling realization dawns on you as you examine these petrified forms more closely. These aren't just ancient statues, these are living creatures, or what were living creatures, frozen in time, their forms turned to stone. The air grows colder, a creeping chill that seeps into your bones, and you feel an intense, almost predatory gaze upon you, even though you see nothing. You recall the legends whispered in hushed tones, stories of a creature that can turn flesh to stone with a single, piercing glance. You remember the old tales of the basilisk, a reptilian horror whose gaze is fatal, its very presence a curse upon the living. Your heart leaps into your throat, and you instinctively shield your eyes, knowing that even an accidental glimpse could seal your fate. "Well, this is just fantastic," you whisper, your voice thin and reedy. "From drowning to being turned into a garden ornament. At least I'll be able to stay still for once. Though I suspect my face will be stuck in a permanent expression of mild annoyance." The joke is a desperate, trembling attempt to keep panic at bay. You scan your surroundings, trying to discern the source of the unseen gaze, yet every shadow, every ancient stone, seems to shimmer with unseen malice. The stillness is absolute, the only sound the frantic pounding of your own heart. The air itself feels thick with petrifying energy, and you imagine the creature, perhaps a massive lizard with venomous fangs, its eyes glowing with unnatural light, lurking somewhere amidst the crumbling ruins. You recall that basilisks are creatures of the sun, often active during daylight hours, using the open light to hunt and trap their prey. The fact that the sun is still high in the sky, casting long, stark shadows, fills you with a fresh wave of dread. You need to find cover, quickly, before its direct gaze falls upon you. Every step you take feels heavy, deliberate, as if your limbs are already beginning to stiffen. You dart from one crumbling wall to another, trying to stay out of any direct line of sight, acutely aware of the open spaces between the larger pieces of rubble. The petrified forms around you serve as grim warnings, silent testaments to the basilisk's horrifying power. You realize that this encounter isn't about strength or cunning, but about avoiding detection, about not meeting its gaze. Your life depends on remaining unseen, unheard, and unpetrified. The very thought of becoming one of these grotesque stone figures, frozen in an eternal scream, fills you with an icy terror. You feel the basilisk's presence, an unseen, ancient predator, patiently hunting in its stone garden, waiting for you to make a single, fatal mistake. You hold your breath, the werewolf's chilling howls slowly receding into the depths of the moonlit forest, leaving you trembling but thankfully unnoticed. You creep away from its hunting grounds, the raw musk and scent of blood fading from the air, as you put as much distance as possible between yourself and the transformed beast. The dense, ancient trees begin to thin, and the oppressive silence of the forest gives way to the hoot of owls and the distant, mournful cry of some nocturnal bird. As you emerge from the shadowed woods, you find yourself on the edge of an old, neglected graveyard, its weathered headstones leaning at odd angles, some half swallowed by creeping ivy. The air here is cold and still, carrying the faint, earthy scent of disturbed soil and decay. The graveyard stretches before you, an expanse of silent, stony grief. Many of the graves are ancient, their inscriptions worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. Others are newer, marked by simple wooden crosses. A crumbling stone wall, barely taller than your waist, surrounds the area, offering little protection from the elements or whatever might lurk within. The moonlight casts long, skeletal shadows across the ground, making the leaning headstones resemble spectral figures. You notice a faint, unpleasant smell, distinct from the damp earth, something vaguely sweet and rancid, like rotting meat. A shiver of unease traces its way down your spine. As you step cautiously over the low wall and into the hallowed, yet clearly unhallowed, ground, the stillness intensifies. The air grows heavy, and a low, guttural tearing sound reaches your ears, accompanied by a faint, wet smacking. It's a sound of consumption, of something feasting in the darkness. Your stomach clenches, and every instinct screams at you to turn and run, but a morbid curiosity, or perhaps simply the sheer exhaustion of flight, holds you rooted to the spot. Then, you see it, hunched over a freshly disturbed grave in the deepest shadow of the graveyard. It's back to you. It's a grotesque, emaciated figure, its skin taut and grey, its limbs unnaturally long and thin. It's tearing at something unseen with long, clawed fingers, its movements quick and ravenous. This is a ghoul, a creature of the night that feasts on the dead, its very existence a perversion of life and death. Your breath catches in your throat. "Oh, for the love of all that's holy." You whisper, the words barely audible. From a beast that hunts the living to one that digs up the dead, at least it's busy, I suppose. Maybe it offers a delivery service for fresh graves. Probably not too much paperwork. The dark humor is a thin, desperate shield against the rising tide of revulsion and fear. The ghoul lets out a low, satisfied moan, a truly sickening sound that vibrates through the cold, still air. It turns its head slightly, and you catch a glimpse of its face eyes that gleam with an unnatural hunger in the moonlight, a mouth stretched unnaturally wide, revealing sharp, yellowed teeth. The smell of decay intensifies, and you realize, with a lurch of your stomach, that its meal is undoubtedly human remains. It's a creature of pure, unadulterated hunger, driven by an insatiable craving for carrion. Its movements are jerky, almost bird-like, as it tears and devours. You remember that ghouls are often associated with graveyards, drawn to the scent of death and the promise of a feast. They are not known for their intellect, but for their savage ferocity when disturbed. You press yourself behind a particularly large, crumbling headstone, trying to make yourself invisible. Every rustle of your cloak, every shift of your weight feels like a thunderclap in the oppressive silence. The ghoul continues its grotesque meal, its focus absolute. But you know that even the slightest sound could draw its attention, and then its ravenous hunger would turn towards you, the living, fresh meat. The graveyard, once merely a place of quiet rest, has become a macabre dining hall, and you are an uninvited, highly vulnerable guest. The cold air, the stench of decay, the horrific sounds of its feasting, it all combines into an assault on your senses. You feel an overwhelming urge to vomit, but you suppress it, knowing that any noise could be your last. Your life depends on remaining utterly silent, utterly still, and hoping that the ghoul finishes its meal and vanishes back into the shadows before dawn breaks. You slip away from the ghoul's horrific feast in the graveyard, the sounds of its gruesome meal fading into a memory you desperately wish you could unhear. The cold, earthy scent of disturbed graves slowly gives way to the familiar, damp smell of dense forest as you push deeper into the encroaching woods, seeking refuge from the horrors of the night. The moon, though still full, is now partially obscured by heavy, fast-moving clouds, casting the landscape in a shifting, ethereal gloom. An unsettling silence descends, a quiet so profound it feels as though the very air is holding its breath. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, seems amplified in this oppressive stillness, setting your nerves on edge. You somehow manage to push past the soul, crushing despair of the banshee's wail, perhaps by sheer force of will or the desperate, instinctual urge to simply not feel that much sorrow. The mournful cries fade behind you, leaving a hollow ache in your chest, but also a renewed determination to find a place of peace. The oppressive, moss-draped forest gradually gives way to a lighter, more whimsical wood. The trees here are younger, their leaves are vibrant, almost luminous green, and wildflowers of every color carpet the forest floor. A soft, gentle light, not quite sunlight, but more like a perpetual twilight, filters through the branches, bathing everything in an ethereal glow. As you step into this enchanted grove, the air itself feels different. It's light, almost effervescent, and carries the faint, sweet scent of honeysuckle and dewdrops. The sound of birdsong is constant, a joyous, intricate melody, but woven within it are tiny, tinkling sounds, like miniature bells or distant laughter. You feel a strange sense of buoyancy, a lightness in your steps, as if the very ground is helping you along. But then, things start to get odd. Your shoelaces, which you distinctly remember tying, come undone. A small, shiny object you were carrying, a polished river stone you picked up earlier, vanishes from your pocket, only to reappear nestled in a high branch of a nearby tree. A sudden gust of wind, impossibly localized, snatches your hat from your head and places it, perfectly balanced, on the nose of a surprised-looking squirrel. These aren't malevolent tricks, nor are they dangerous. They are simply pranks. Annoying, disorienting, and utterly baffling. You look around, trying to find the source of this playful chaos, but you see nothing. The tinkling laughter seems to come from all directions, soft and fleeting, just at the edge of your hearing. You've wandered into the domain of the Pixie Pranksters, tiny, light, emitting fey creatures known for their love of mischief and their uncanny ability to remain unseen while wreaking minor havoc. They delight in leading travelers on harmless, meandering paths, creating illusions of shortcuts that lead nowhere, and generally turning a straightforward journey into a whimsical, frustrating dance. Honestly, you sigh, half exasperated, half amused, as nothing ever simple. I just wanted to get from point A to point B, not participate in an elaborate game of find the hidden sock. At least they're not trying to steal my soul, just my dignity. The shift from existential dread to mild irritation is almost a relief. The unseen pixies seem to react to your exasperation, for suddenly a shower of tiny, luminescent petals rains down on you, followed by a flurry of impossibly small, gentle tugs on your clothing, as if they're trying to pull you in different directions at once. The tinkling laughter intensifies, sounding almost gleeful. You try to catch one, to pinpoint its location, but they are too swift, too elusive, their movements like the shimmering of heat haze on a summer road. You realize that any attempt to force your way through, or to fight back against their playful onslaught, would be utterly futile. Your only option is to play along, or to somehow navigate their chaotic tricks. You decide to try a different approach, a kind of benign surrender. You let your shoelaces remain untied, you ignore the missing stone, and you even offer a small, slightly forced smile to the empty air, as if acknowledging their cleverness. Immediately, the intensity of their pranks lessens. The tugs become gentler, the laughter softer, and you even see a brief, fleeting flicker of a tiny, shimmering light dart past your periphery, a momentary glimpse of a winged silhouette before it vanishes. You realize that while mischievous, these creatures are ultimately harmless, perhaps even lonely, seeking only to engage with the larger world in their own playful way. Your journey through the pixie-laden grove becomes a strange dance, a series of minor annoyances and ethereal beauty, as you learn to navigate their whimsical world with a new sense of patience and a grudging appreciation for their unique brand of chaos. You rack your brain, the leprechaun's sharp eyes twinkling with anticipation. A map, you blurt out, a sudden flash of insight striking you. It's a map. The leprechaun claps its tiny hands together, a sound like dry leaves rustling. Precisely, it chirps, its grin widening. You are clever indeed, human. Perhaps too clever for your own good. Now, begone with your smarts! With a puff of green smoke that smells faintly of mint and old leather, it vanishes, leaving behind only the gleaming pile of gold coins, which, upon closer inspection, are simply ordinary, albeit highly polished, pebbles. You sigh, a mixture of exasperation and relief. At least you didn't end up as part of a riddle. You continue on your path, leaving the deceptive charm of the leprechaun's glade behind. The trees here are tall and stately, their branches forming a high, arching canopy that filters the sunlight into a soft, cathedral-like glow. The air is surprisingly still, almost cozy, and carries the faint, comforting scent of wood smoke and baked bread, a stark contrast to the wilder aromas you've grown accustomed to. The ground is carpeted with soft moss and fallen leaves, making your footsteps almost silent. A sense of gentle order pervades this part of the forest, a subtle hum of quiet activity that is felt more than heard. This isn't the chaotic energy of pixies, nor the ancient malice of darker creatures. This feels almost domestic. As you walk, you notice small, subtle signs of habitation. Not human, not animal, but something in between. A tiny, intricately woven basket hangs from a low branch, filled with glistening berries. A miniature broom, no larger than your hand, rests neatly against a fallen log. A patch of wild mushrooms has been carefully arranged into a spiral pattern. These aren't just random occurrences, they are deliberate acts, signs of a quiet, helpful hand at work. You remember the old tales of the little folk, of household spirits and industrious fae, who sometimes attach themselves to homes or travelers, offering aid in exchange for a little warmth and respect. These are the signs of a forest trickster, but a far gentler, less malicious one than many you've heard of. Or perhaps it's just a different kind of trick. Suddenly, you hear a faint, almost imperceptible thump from behind a thicket of blackberry bushes, followed by a soft, exasperated sigh. You cautiously peer through the leaves and see something that makes you blink in surprise. A small, furry creature, no taller than a badger but walking upright, is attempting to carry a ridiculously oversized acorn, nearly half its own size, towards a small, hidden burrow. It grunts with effort, struggling with the weight, and then with a frustrated flick of its tail, drops the acorn with another soft thump. It's covered in soft, brown fur, with large, expressive eyes that seem to hold an ancient wariness. This is a forest trickster, not one to mislead with illusions, but one whose tricks are more about minor annoyances and subtle rearrangements, perhaps even a bit of helpfulness when the mood strikes it. It looks up, sees you, and freezes, the acorn forgotten. Its expression is a comical mix of surprise and mild annoyance at being caught. "Oh, hello there," you say, a genuine smile touching your lips for the first time in a long while. Having a bit of trouble with your harvest. You can almost hear the unsaid, "Are you going to try and swap my shoes for pebbles too?" The trickster creature stares at you for a long moment, its bushy tail twitching. It doesn't seem overtly hostile, just put out. Its eyes, dark and intelligent, seem to be assessing you, wondering if you're a threat or merely a very tall, clumsy observer. It lets out a small, huffing sound, almost like a chuckle, and then, with a surprising burst of speed, nudges the oversized acorn with its nose, sending it rolling easily towards its burrow. It then turns back to you, its head tilted, and makes a soft, chittering sound as if inviting you to follow. You realize that its trick might simply be to observe, to play small games, and perhaps, if you prove yourself harmless, to offer a moment of quiet, unassuming companionship. The air around it feels gentle, a sense of quiet magic. This is a creature of simple pleasures and subtle interventions. Perhaps it's a test of patience, of observation, of learning to see the world not just as a series of threats, but as a place filled with unexpected, minor wonders. Your journey has brought you to a creature of gentle influence, a subtle nudger of fate rather than a brute force. You linger in the magical glade, bathed in the soft, luminous glow of the wildflowers and the gentle hum of the dancing fairies, until a profound sense of peace settles over you. The exhaustion from your long, perilous journey finally catches up, and you find a comfortable spot amidst the soft moss, drifting into a light, dream-like slumber. You wake feeling refreshed. The previous horrors of goblins and dragons mere distant echoes, replaced by the lingering scent of jasmine and the faint, tinkling sound of unseen laughter. As the last of the ethereal light of the glade fades, replaced by the first soft blush of dawn, you rise and continue your journey. The forest gradually brightens, the trees regaining their normal hues, and the air becomes crisp and cool, signaling the fresh start of a new day. As the sun begins to rise, casting long golden rays through the trees, you find yourself walking through a part of the forest that feels ancient and undisturbed, untouched by human concerns. The ground is soft and springy beneath your feet, covered in a rich carpet of leaves and ferns. The air is pure, carrying the clean scent of damp earth and fresh growth. A profound sense of serenity settles over you, a quiet harmony that seems to resonate from the very core of this pristine wilderness. You feel a deep connection to the earth, a grounding presence that calms your spirit after the many trials you have faced. Then, through a break in the trees, you see it. Bathed in the soft, golden light of the rising sun, standing perfectly still in a small, dew-kissed clearing, is a creature of breathtaking beauty and impossible grace. It is a unicorn, its body a shimmering white, its mane and tail flowing like spun moonlight. From its forehead spirals a single, long, slender horn, gleaming with an inner light that seems to defy the very laws of physics. Its eyes, dark and deep, hold an ancient wisdom and a profound gentleness that calms your very soul. This is a creature of pure magic and untainted innocence, known for its purity, its healing touch, and its elusive nature, appearing only to those of pure heart or in moments of profound need. Your breath catches in your throat, and you feel an overwhelming sense of awe, a quiet reverence in its presence. "Well," you whisper, the word barely audible, "I suppose I've finally reached the good behavior bonus part of this adventure. From dodging fire, breathing nightmares to this. I hope it doesn't judge my slightly singed cloak too harshly." The humor is soft, a genuine smile spreading across your face. The unicorn remains still, its gaze fixed upon you, and for a long moment, time seems to cease. You feel an immense sense of peace emanating from it, a silent blessing that washes over you, soothing every lingering ache, every residual fear from your harrowing journey. It doesn't move, doesn't make a sound, yet its presence speaks volumes. You feel a deep sense of acceptance, as if all your trials, all your weariness, are understood and silently acknowledged. Its very existence is a balm to your spirit, a reminder that even in a world filled with danger and darkness, there is still pure, untainted beauty and profound wonder to be found. You simply stand there, motionless, returning its gaze, allowing its tranquil presence to wash over you. The air around the unicorn feels lighter, almost sacred, and you imagine the soft chime of distant bells, though no sound is actually heard. You realize that this encounter isn't about overcoming a challenge, or escaping a threat, or even gaining something tangible. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated grace, a brief, magical respite on your long journey. The unicorn's horn seems to pulse with a faint, internal light, and you feel a subtle warmth spread through your chest, a sense of quiet renewal. It is a blessing, a moment of profound, wordless connection with the purest magic of the world. After a long moment, the unicorn dips its head slightly, a gesture of silent acknowledgement, and then, with a graceful turn, it melts back into the deeper shadows of the forest, disappearing as silently as it appeared, leaving you alone once more, but profoundly changed. The world feels brighter, the air fresher, and your spirit lighter, ready to face whatever new adventures the path might hold. The serene encounter with the unicorn leaves you with a profound sense of calm and renewed vigor, its image lingering in your mind like a cherished dream. The sun rises higher, painting the forest in hues of gold and emerald, and the air hums with the gentle activity of awakening nature. You continue your journey, a new lightness in your step, the memory of true magic a comforting presence after your harrowing encounters. The path widens, gradually leading you out of the dense woods and onto a familiar, well-worn road, one that clearly leads towards signs of human civilization. In the distance, you can see the faint outline of rooftops and the thin wisps of smoke rising into the morning sky. As you approach the outskirts of a small, bustling village, the sounds of everyday life begin to filter through the morning air, the distant crow of a rooster, the faint bleating of sheep, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer. The scents of wood smoke, freshly baked bread, and damp earth mingle pleasantly. A welcome change from the strange, often unsettling aromas you've grown accustomed to. The village itself is nestled in a fertile valley, surrounded by green fields and gentle hills, a picture of rustic peace. You notice small details: a cart loaded with hay creaking slowly down a dirt track, children playing in a nearby field, their laughter carrying sweetly on the breeze, and laundry flapping on lines strung between cottages. However, as you draw closer, a subtle tension becomes apparent beneath the surface of this idyllic scene. The villagers, while going about their daily tasks, seem to do so with a cautious efficiency, their eyes often scanning the distant tree lines or the shadows of the surrounding hills. A faint, collective sigh seems to hang in the air, a wariness that speaks of constant vigilance. You overhear snatches of conversation, hushed whispers about the patrols, worried glances towards the woods, and nervous murmurs about keeping the lights low. It's clear that while this village strives for peace, it does so under a shadow, a persistent threat that looms just beyond its well-tended borders. You realize that even in places of apparent safety, the echoes of the wild, untamed world are never truly silenced. Well, isn't this charming? You muse, a slight frown creasing your brow. Looks like even quaint little villages have their own local neighborhood watch issues. Probably just worried about squirrels stealing their turnips. Or maybe it's something a little more toothy. The familiar sarcasm returns, a comforting habit. As you step into the village square, the central hub of activity, you notice that many of the villagers carry simple, yet sturdy, tools that could easily double as weapons. A farmer's scythe leaning against a barn door, a woodcutter's axe near a stack of logs, even the blacksmith's hammer, normally a tool of creation, looks ready for defense. Their faces, though kind, bear the subtle lines of constant worry, a quiet watchfulness in their eyes. They greet you with wary politeness, their gazes lingering for a moment, assessing you as an outsider. This isn't overt fear, but a deep-seated caution, a communal understanding that vigilance is the price of their hard-won peace. You see a small group of villagers gathered around a weathered map pinned to the side of the well. They speak in hushed tones, pointing to various points, their brows furrowed in concentration. You catch fragments of their discussion: the old logging trail, the northern pass, the abandoned mine. It's clear they are discussing patrol routes, potential incursions, and the ever-present dangers lurking just beyond their known world. The weight of their shared burden, of their constant, quiet battle against the wild, is palpable. This community, despite its outward calm, is a fortress of collective will, constantly bracing against the unknown. Their daily lives are a testament to resilience, a quiet defiance against the threats that still linger just beyond the village boundaries. You realize that sometimes the true cost of survival isn't a single harrowing encounter, but the endless, unyielding vigilance that allows a community to thrive, day after quiet, cautious day. Leaving the vigilant village behind, you press onward, the sounds of its cautious daily life slowly fading into the distance. The well-worn road eventually leads you away from the settled lands and into a wilder, more untamed expanse. The sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and crimson, and the air grows cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms. As dusk deepens, a profound shift occurs in the atmosphere. The familiar sounds of the natural world, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl seem to quiet, replaced by a subtle, eerie stillness. You find yourself on a path that winds through what appears to be ancient, untouched wilderness. The trees here are colossal, their branches draped with thick moss, and their roots gnarled and twisted like the sinews of ancient beasts. The light, already dim, grows even more muted, filtered through the impossibly dense canopy. The air becomes heavy, charged with an unseen energy, and a prickle of unease traces its way down your spine. This isn't just a quiet forest. It's a place where the veil between worlds feels thin, where ancient things stir in the shadows, Suddenly, a profound shift in the air occurs, not with sound, but with an overwhelming wave of pure, unadulterated cold. It's a bone-chilling cold that seeps into your very marrow, making your breath mist before your eyes, even indoors. You realize, with a shiver that has nothing to do with physical temperature, that the temperature inside a medieval peasant's home was usually just a polite couple of degrees above whatever the weather was doing outside. This cold is far more intense, a deliberate, consuming chill that drains all warmth and comfort from the surroundings. You remember tales of beings born of pure frost, of spirits that leave trails of ice and paralyze with fear. You've stumbled into the domain of frost wraiths, ethereal entities of extreme cold, and their presence alone is a terrifying assault on your very being. Great. You manage to choke out, your teeth chattering despite yourself. From battling brutes to shivering to death from a ghost. At least I won't have to worry about my toes freezing off anymore. They'll just vanish. Your attempt at humor is weak, lost in the overwhelming chill. The cold intensifies, becoming a tangible force that presses in on you from all sides. You can almost see the air shimmering with icy particles, and the trees around you begin to glisten with a thin layer of hoarfrost, forming delicate, crystalline patterns. The very ground seems to harden under your feet, turning brittle and unforgiving. You feel an immense pressure on your chest, making it difficult to draw a full breath, and a paralyzing fear begins to creep into your limbs, stiffening your muscles and slowing your movements. This isn't just the absence of heat, it's an active draining of life force, a silent, insidious attack from the very essence of winter itself. You recall the historical reality of medieval winters, where frostbite, hypothermia, and general freezing to death were constant risks, especially for young children and the elderly. You are facing a living embodiment of that ancient, relentless threat. You try to move, to force your leaden limbs to carry you away, but the cold seems to bind you in place, its icy tendrils wrapping around your resolve. You feel the distinct sense of being watched, not by eyes, but by a collective, formless malevolence that delights in your suffering. The sounds of the forest are utterly silenced, swallowed by the profound stillness that accompanies these creatures. You imagine their forms, vague and shimmering in the dim light, like transparent figures made of frost and shadow, drifting closer, their touch promising not just cold, but oblivion. Your life now depends on somehow breaking free from their paralyzing fear, on rekindling some inner warmth to fight back against the creeping chill. The ancient forest, once a place of refuge, has become a frozen tomb, and the frost wraiths are its silent, consuming guardians, determined to turn you into another victim of winter's relentless grip.